The following is a production of Stevenson Media.
And what is going on, everyone? The 2025 NFL Draft has came and went for the Houston Texans, and the Twin Toros podcast is back. I can't tell you how excited I am to talk about this draft class. My name is Ruben Calvillo. You can find me on YouTube. Just type in 713 Houston Sportcast. My co-host, the president of Houston Sports, Nick Stevenson. How's it going, OG?
I'm feeling good, man. Um, as I was watching the draft, you and I had just done a show talking about some names we were hoping were called. A lot of those names we brought up were coming off the board early, man.
Yeah.
And I started wondering what was going to happen with the Texans pick, all the way up to your boy Donovan Jackson got picked right before 25.
Yes.
So once that happened, I was very curious. What are the Texans going to do? Well, we found out, and I think I'm okay with everything that happened over the weekend. So we'll get a chance to talk about it.
I'm all right. I'm all right because the problems you had entering this draft are the same problems you have today, and
Hmm.
that is you don't know who the hell is going to be protecting CJ Stroud. But I die. Let's save that topic for later.
Okay.
The Houston Texans, the first round, pick 25, they get sniped. Two of their picks that they want. Well, one of them they didn't know they were going to have an opportunity to even think about getting, and that was Matthew Golden out of Texas. And man, Nick, you saw it on his face. He was not happy
You
that
don't
he
think
was
so?
selected by Green Bay. But good job by him hyping up the crowd because they were in Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
That green was reflecting off his gold jacket, his gold suit nicely. So they got themselves one. I was
For
thinking,
sure.
all right, that's fine. Minnesota's probably going to take Josh Simmons, and you're going to end up with Donovan Jackson Jr. Okay, then boom, Minnesota just gets him. My heart sank, and you saw the Houston Texans trade out of the first round. So what does that tell you? Donovan Jackson was their guy. They tried to get Matthew Golden, and then Nick Caserio for 2 years in a row does not select in the first round. What a letdown for night one, but good counterpunch by Nick Caserio. What were your thoughts on the trade?
um, it did not bother me because we talked about in the last show. I was worried he was going to stay there and take Josh Simmons, and I told you what my worries about Josh Simmons were. Well, clearly, the Texans felt the same way. I think any time right after that, a successful franchise like the Kansas City Chiefs goes ahead and says, "Hey, we'll take a chance on Josh Simmons." I'm not saying that I don't trust D'Amico and I don't trust Nick Caserio, but that always makes listen. It's very rare for the Kansas City Chiefs to miss. Now they had a need, just like we did at tackle, and they decided they were going to try Josh Simmons, who many believe, if he was healthy, would have been the top tackle in the draft. So I didn't have a problem with them moving back. I thought that meant they were probably going to go wide receiver. I did not expect the name that I heard of Jalen Higgins, excuse me. But we were talking about Trey Harris because we wanted a Nico clone. Well, I would say that Jaden Higgins is probably even more of a Nico clone than Trey Harris was. So I like the pick. I'm assuming you probably still wanted them to draft somebody for the offensive line with that 34th pick.
No, I was fine with Jaden Higgins at pick 34 because I was under the assumption that you were going to do something in regards to the offensive line. So at pick 34, Texans go wide receiver Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State, 6'4", 215 pounds. And like you mentioned, he is more of a Nico Collins clone than Trey Harris. This was shocking because of who was available on the board, like a Jonas Savaiinaea out of Arizona, Luther Burden
Mhm.
was available for you, and that was a lot of people's pick at 34. A draft prospect that was viewed as a first rounder
Mhm.
falls out of the first round. Jaden Higgins gets picked over him. No issue there. Then the Houston Texans made a trade just a couple of minutes later. Pick 48, Ariante Ursary, offensive tackle out of Minnesota. Now he's just a behemoth of a player. Um, he's 6'6", 330 pounds. Ursher was a 3-year starter at left tackle for Minnesota from 2022 to 2024. His size stands out as he measures 6'6", 330 pounds. He is light on his feet despite his size
Mhm.
and has an explosive first step that yield high PFF run blocking grades in zone assignments. He's 24 years old. I'm sorry, 23 years old. And I do like the fact that you address the offensive line, Nick. However, Ariante Ursary is not going to start for you in 2025. He's not going to play significant snaps for you in
Mm-mm.
2025. So 2026, 2027, he might be your tackle of the future. But this year, I just don't see it.
Are
I
we
just don't
sure of
see it.
that though? Because according to Tay, he told Nick Casario, "You just drafted the best tackle in this draft."
I mean, yeah,
So
that's fine, but they took Blake Fisher last year in the second round, and we didn't see him towards the end of the late season.
true, true.
So, I'm not gonna put any weight to that.
So
I'm sure he might end up being the best tackle at the draft, but with him, it's widely considered this is a project at tackle.
yeah, I think we'll see. But once again, I'm gonna put my trust in the coaching staff that D'Amico Ryans has. With Tay Ursary, honestly, I didn't know anything about him until like 2 weeks before the draft. Actually, my boy put me on to him. Because I mean, I don't watch very much college football. I definitely don't watch any Minnesota football. So he's actually the one who put me on to him. So I started watching a little bit of his film, and he kind of confirmed. It doesn't confirm. I have this suspicion that the Texans want to go to his own running scheme, and that's what he ran in Minnesota. He is a big dude, but he is light on his feet, extremely athletic, and I think that's the direction they want this offensive line to go to eventually. Do they have the personnel to run that this season? That I'm not sure of. I feel like Juice Scruggs could probably run his own scheme. I think that the guy that we have already in Titus Howard, I think he could run it, and I don't know if that's going to be the plan. I know that our offensive coordinator is coming from the Rams, which they run his own.
Mhm.
Um, but I think there's a chance that he could be playing on this line if he is indeed the steal that he tells Nick Casario that he is. I think there's a chance at least. And my thing is that Nick
By
Casario
week
said
1,
by week one, it's possible. It's possible. I'm not gonna say
do you
lock it
think he
in.
starts over Cam Robinson?
No, but I
Do you
think you
think he
could
starts
see.
over Blake Fisher?
I could see you moving. I think he starts over. I think he could possibly start over people like Lake and Tomlinson. And
He's not a guard though.
this is what I'm saying. I could see you moving. You keep Titus Howard at guard. Let's say you put Fisher at guard, and you start him at right tackle, and you have Cam Robinson at left, and then Juice at center. Here's what Nick Casario said after the draft when he was in the press conference. We're gonna put the 5 best guys out there. I think there's a chance he could be one of those 5 best guys. That's all. I'm not gonna say lock it in, but I think there's a chance. And if not, then obviously the coaching staff is comfortable with who they got. Or once just like Nick Casario said, the draft isn't the only way you add to your team. We have other options, other team building options. So at this point, man, I understand the disappointment because obviously when Kelvin Banks Jr. went off at number 9, that threw me for a loop. When Tyler Booker went off at number 12, that threw me for a loop. But at this point, this regime since D'Amico's been here hasn't given me a whole lot to say. Hey, I don't trust you when it comes to this. They did everything they could to revamp this offensive line to the best of their ability. Let's see what happens.
Moving on to the third selection, which was a surprise by everyone. Houston Texans go Jalen Noel, wide receiver out of Iowa State. Not only do they double dip at wide receiver, but they double dip out of the same college. I think Jalen Noel might have an opportunity to be more of a impactful player than Jaden Higgins. Right? We talked about Jaden Higgins being a Nico Collins clone. What about Jalen Noel being a Tank Dell clone? 5'10", a little bit more weight on the body,
Hmm.
speed, route running, explosiveness. The Houston Texans completely revamped their wide receiver room this draft. No issue with that. I like Jalen. No, he's going to be exciting.
I like speed on the offense. It's something that the Texans, even with outside of Tank Dell, it's something that they've lacked. So
Mhm.
let's get him as much speed on the offense and honestly on the defense as possible. I like speed. I like fast players. I like players who can swarm to the ball on defense and can go and get it. Um, that you can just throw it up and they go get it on offense. So don't have any problems with that. Like I said, he wasn't as much on my radar as some other players, but after the fact, going and watching some of the film and just hearing what the coaching staff and what the Nick Casario had to say, we know that they value high character guys as much as they value good football players, and so people who love football, people they don't anticipate they're going to have any trouble out of. Watched his TikTok video, seems like a cool dude. So once again, no problems there, man. Wide receiver we know was a need, and like you said, they've completely revamped that room. So uh, added to Iowa State guys, probably getting rid of one, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think Hutchinson and Mechie are on the way out. I do see a kind of exit strategy from Tank Dell, to be honest with you, but I think the
Hmm.
Texans are going to give themselves like maybe a year and a half more of that experiment. But moving on, this pick absolutely surprised me. 97, Jalen Smith, cornerback out of USC. Now, this is someone who was rightly considered to be a fifth or sixth round pick. The
Hmm.
Houston Texans decided to take him at 97. This one was surprising because I don't think you needed any help in the secondary unit, especially not at the cornerback market. This is a pure depth piece, a special team piece. It feels like Frank Ross had a say in this. Jalen Smith, you are a Houston Texan.
Yeah, I think depth in that position, depth in every position, especially in the NFL, is important. I'm not going to pretend that I feel like, oh, he should have been going in the later rounds. Like I said, I'm gonna trust the Texans with that one. But I could see the value of Jalen Petrie keeps having these chest injuries. I could see the value of bringing in somebody you think maybe can play some nickel. Um, maybe you think can get in on a dime package. I'm not mad at it. For me, I like I said, I was hoping they would double dip on the offensive line in this draft. That didn't happen,
Man, no, they didn't
and
nothing.
yeah, so that was the only surprise for me is that they went with another cornerback, um, instead of trying to find somebody to. Like I said, this
Nick,
offensive line needs you to throw so much at it, right?
it surprised me that every pick after Ariante Ursary
Hmm.
was not an offensive lineman.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I
feel you.
like that's how shocked I was, and was even more shocked when the Houston Texans traded back up into the 4th round and selected Joquavius Marks, Woody Marks for short, running back out of USC, 24 years of age, but this is someone who is considered one of the best pass catching running backs of this draft class, and you add another weapon on this offense, you get your backup running back for the foreseeable future. He looked like he was a captain at USC. There was a moment where he was on top of the ladder, holding that sword, and everyone was just rallying to him.
Yeah,
Looks like a fun player, an exciting player. He rushed for 1,154 yards and forced 34 missed tackles on 622 collegiate carries. Excited to see what he does. Is this the Darway replacement? It might be. My
yeah.
question is, can Woody Marks kick a field goal?
That's a good question. I'll tell you what he can do. I watched one USC game last year. It was against LSU, and he ran all over LSU. So I didn't know a whole lot about him other than that. So after he got drafted, I went and watched some more highlights, and he looks like he's pretty nice, man. there are, like we talked about it last show, there are some decisions going to have to be made in that running back room pretty soon. Are you going to bring
Damian Pierce.
Damian Pierce?
I just don't think Joe Mixon should be worried
No,
about
Joe,
his.
I don't think either one of them should be worried. But
Yeah, yeah,
is he
yeah, yeah. I
somebody, is
think
he
he
a
should.
body that's going to be in that room when one of them is not by the time their contract is up? Because I believe Damian Pierce is a free agent after this season, correct?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure, Damian, and then I would suggest they double dip once again,
Yeah.
in next year's draft. But I like it. Hopefully, he's a day one impactful player. Moving on, the Houston Texans in the 6th round, they have no fifth. They took safety Jalen Reed out of Penn State. He was the 134th ranked prospect on the PFF's big board, and you get him at 187. You talked about Jalen Smith being that Jalen Petrie, backup bro. I could see that also
Mhm.
with Jalen Reed. He's a downhill box safety who was fantastic against the run. I also think he is a pure special teams guy. Jalen Reed out of Penn State. Welcome to the Houston Texans.
Yeah, for sure. The good news about that is, like, when the Texans are in nickel a lot, you could bring down one of those safeties to play nickel corner, and then you could bring down one of those safeties to play linebacker too. So just as many good bodies you can have on this defense, I think that's what D'Amico Ryans wants. I think we reached our quota. Excuse me. I think we've reached our quota on Jalen's on this team, but other than that, I like it.
I know I didn't notice that. Moving on to Houston Texans, make it trade up, and this was just a surprise. They go Graham Mertz, quarterback out of Florida. Now Mertz was not good at Florida, coming off of a torn ACL. Not sure what the plan here is, Nick. Davis Mills, you did bring him in on a 1-year contract extension. Is there a trade in the work for Davis Mills? I've seen Kenyon Green in a 6th round pick be being traded for CJ Gardner Johnson. So it would not surprise me if
Hmm.
Davis Mills is potentially traded for a starting offensive lineman. But I digress. The Houston Texans go quarterback, man.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, about them trading him. I think they just need a plan for what are they going to do. Are they going to keep? I mean, eventually he's going to probably want to try to sign somewhere else. So I feel like that's just kind of, let's get somebody in the room. Let's teach them the scheme. And if we don't continue to bring back our backup, then we at least have one other quarterback in the room, starting next season. But that's a good question. Do you think that Davis Mills has done enough to garner any interest from other teams?
I mean, if Kenyon Green could do it,
That's true.
Davis Mills could do it. I'm gonna say that.
Kenyon Green was a high draft pick, though. So I think that
Kenyon
just,
Green was one of the worst guards in football.
of course, but I think the potential because of him being a high draft pick, because of what he did in college, I think he's definitely
What
got
did he
more
do in
appeal.
college?
He was a good run blocker in college. I'm not saying, like, listen, the dude was a 2nd-round pick. Like, or no, did they get him in the 1st round?
First round.
They got him in the 1st round. So 1st-round picks get more chances than Davis Mills, who they drafted in the 3rd round.
I do think Davis Mills lasts longer in the NFL than Kenyon Green.
I agree with
But
that 100%. I'm just
moving
saying,
on,
is somebody going to trade for him?
yeah, moving on. 7th round, Keontae Hamilton out of Rutgers.
About time, right?
He had a grade of 81.3. 6 pressures, 2 sacks against UCLA in week 8, a pass rush grade of 92.0. I have no issues with this pick at all. You get some youth at the defensive line spot, and what we've seen from D'Amico Ryans, whatever he gets his hands on you, you get better.
Yeah. That's what you
Okay.
hope. You hope it's a guy who outplays where he was drafted.
And then to finish it off, pick 255, Luke Lackey, tight end out of Iowa, 6'6", wasn't very productive, just 362 receiving yards on 265 routes over the past 2 seasons. However, that is tight end U at Iowa, so maybe there is something there with Luke Lackey. And PFF gave the Houston Texans a B on this draft. I don't agree, but what are your thoughts on this draft class?
Do you think it's worse or better than a
Yeah, I
B?
think it's worse. I'll
You
give it a
think so?
C. I'll give it a
Okay.
C plus.
Um, let me ask, well, you're asking me a question. I'm going to answer yours with a question.
Mhm.
How do you feel about what Nick Caserio said? Because a lot of people were questioning some of these picks. And he said, we stuck to the board. We don't draft for need. As a matter of fact, he said, I don't even know what draft for need is. Do you buy that?
I I don't buy that because in the first round, you see 2 picks swiped, from you when you reacted by trading out, and you cannot convince me that Graham Mertz, quarterback out of Florida, was the best player available to you at pick 197. You had to go trade it up to go get him. You had to trade up to go get uh Woody Marks. So I don't know. I don't know what was the game plan here, Nick, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of criticism over this draft class, but hey, we'll
Yeah, I
see.
understand. I understand. And we'll probably get a chance to get into that in future shows. I know you got a lot to do today. Do you think, because let me ask you this. I know that Shador Sanders got taken in the 5th round.
Mhm.
If they were really planning on going quarterback in the 6th round, if Shador's there, you think they
You
draft
should have
him?
taken him. You should have did that.
Yeah, I'm sure should. That's why I said there's no way in the world that you were telling me you picked the best player available because Shador Sanders was on the board until the 5th
Dude,
round.
it's
And at
gonna
some
hurt my
point, I
heart.
guarantee you he was the top player on your board. So I think that's just GM speak, if you ask me. You're definitely looking at needs on your team when you're making some of these draft picks. And, I think at least in the first, 4 or 5 rounds you are, maybe after that, then you start just saying, hey, let's find as many good players as we can.
Mhm.
Um, so we'll see what happens, man. But I mean, to me, a B grade's not great, but I'll say B minus maybe. What's your grade?
Like I said, C plus.
C plus? Mm,
You walked in with the needed offensive line, and you walked out with the need offensive line. So that's it.
yeah, you didn't get
Is
your
is a
certified
culture ch Yeah, you didn't
guaranteed
get
day
none
one
of your
starter.
starting franchise players that we talked about,
Okay,
and if culture change and competition is really what's gonna change this offensive line, then Nick Caserio is the smartest general manager in the NFL, and
yeah.
if I see Josh Connolly Jr. and Josh Simmons Jr. start 17 games for their respective teams, I'm gonna be very sick.
Mm, yeah, that's true.
When I saw the article that CJ Stroud was upset about Laremy Tunsil being traded, and rightfully so, goes to Nick, and Nick tells him, "Hey, calm down. I know what I'm doing." Well, this is what you did as far as the offensive line was select a player that's not gonna play for you in
Yeah,
2025.
yeah. Well, we'll see, man. I mean, according to him, he's the best tackle in the draft. So we shall see, man. I understand
I'm
the
the best
skepticism.
podcaster in the game.
You are.
You see how
You
you
are
see
the
how
best
this is word of
podcaster.
mouth. You feel me?
You speak that into existence, man. Look, man, I mean, I like the confidence and I hope he's right. And
I hope so.
like you said, this um I don't know how much because Nick Casario has been a good draft person, a
Not
good
at
GM.
offensive line.
Not at offensive line, but you got to admit he's been good in other places. So,
Yeah, fair.
do you feel like how long is his leash?
I mean,
I don't mean like he's going to get fired, but like how much grace can you give him because of what he's done previously?
well, of course, you're gonna have to give him some grace and leeway, but that grace and leeway is gonna start falling short not once, but if CJ Stroud is once again the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. And here's the
Yes.
thing, Nick: if going from 5 to no, if going from the second most sacked quarterback to the seventh most sacked quarterback, is that really an improvement?
No, you don't want your quarterback anywhere near that
The
list.
bar is that low.
Yeah. No, I understand. Here's the thing, man. Like, let's see what happens when they suit it up.
Mhm.
I think if that happens again, if like you said, we see Josh Connerly Jr. and we see Josh Simmons out there balling out for their respective teams, and you had an opportunity to get either one of them, then yeah, I think that criticism is going to
After
be valid.
Ariante Ursary, Nick Caserio said, "I don't like any of these offensive linemen."
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I We'll see, man. We'll see.
I don't understand because and what's crazy is the some of the switch up with Texans fans where if they don't leave round one with an offensive lineman, I'm rioting. If they don't get day one starters on the offensive line, I'm rioting. And now it's, oh, Nick Casario had a good draft. Look, we've been very, very optimistic about this team, about Nick Casario.
Mhm.
I think this is one where I'm really critical and
Skeptical.
wondering what the game plan is for the offensive line because I've seen it happen with Derek Carr. I've seen it
Mhm.
happen with Deshaun Watson, and I saw it happen last year with CJ. When are we going to learn that you need to protect your franchise quarterback?
Yeah. Listen, here's the thing I know about you, Ruben. You bleed deep steel blue, that Liberty white, and that battle red. So all you want is what's best for this team. And I know regardless, you're going to be repping 10 toes down and rooting for this team, but you want to see your franchise quarterback protected because that is the issue that you had going in this draft. I'm going to give Nick Casario this. He did say there's other ways to build this team. They do have draft capital. Maybe they have another trade in them somewhere. I don't know.
They need it.
They absolutely. If I would definitely be making phone calls in the trade market, see if they can get some more bodies on this offensive line. Throw everything that you possibly can at this offensive line to get it fixed. Because like I said, if by year 4 or 5 of DeMeco Ryan's tenure, they don't have this offensive line fixed, that's going to be a problem. Like if you've had 3-4 years to do it and you still don't have it done, then that's going to be a problem for everybody who thinks that they want to come back and get a new contract, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Well, that was it, ladies and gentlemen. We want to thank everyone who was a part of this episode. And as we, are here next week, we'll break down more in depth this draft class. But that was Nick Stevenson, the president of Houston Sports. I am Ruben Calvillo. Big shout out to ESPN having us on here. Do us all a favor, ladies and gentlemen. Have a real blessed rest of your day.
Love y'all. Good night.